Hello, and welcome to Pharmacist Answers. I'm Cynthia, and I will be your host. You're listening to my Periscope broadcast turned podcast. Hope you enjoy.
So I had started a topic about our liver. Last week I did an overview of the liver, of where to find it, and some tricks you could use. On Monday, we talked about the first process that your liver helps you with, which is digestion, and how it creates bile to dump into your intestines to dissolve the fats that you eat. So I'm going to show you my little diagram again, because we're going to talk about the process number 2 that your liver helps you with, which is metabolism, which also has to do with what you eat. So here's my picture. Our lobule. This is the liver lobule. Your liver is made up of hundreds and thousands of these. These little guys are hepatocytes. Those are your liver cells, and they form this nice little pinwheel, and each corner of this hexagon is an artery, a vein, and a bile duct. So, and then in the middle is the main vein that runs through and picks up everything that goes on in this little hub and carries it to where it needs to go. So your liver, the first process, your liver makes bile, sends it to your intestines to aid in digestion of your, your liver hates you. Why do you think that? But does it have to do with the food that you eat? But the bile that your liver makes helps digest fat in the foods that you eat. But that happens in your intestines when the 3 main energy sources from the food you eat: carbohydrates, fats. You don't eat healthy, yeah. Carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are the 3 main energy sources from the food that you eat. And when your body soaks them up, carbs and fats, yeah. So your liver works hard for you to make sure that those things are taken care of when you're eating them. When those things are absorbed through your intestines in small bits, and end up in your bloodstream, they flow straight to the liver. And what part does the gallbladder play? The gallbladder, I talked about that on Monday. The gallbladder, it holds the bile that the liver makes, and then when your intestines sense that you ate something fatty, then it sends a message to the gallbladder and says, hey, I need bile for all this fat. The gallbladder gushes the bile to your intestines. So it's kind of like a holding reservoir. And I told a story on Monday. My husband does not have his gallbladder anymore. If he eats something fatty, his body can't get enough bile to the intestines to digest the fat. So the intestines goes, I can't do anything with this, and then sends it out the exit a lot faster than it typically would for digestion. So your gallbladder does good things for you, but you can do without it. It just requires some dietary changes. So the metabolism of the foods, metabolism is a fancy word that just means change. And in your body, your body metabolizes things or changes things to make it useful or to make it safe. So does water have any effect on the liver? Not usually. I mean, water, your blood is made up of water. Your body is made up of mostly water. So you need water to make everything fluid so it can flow to all the places that it needs to go. There is a process in the liver that the liver does when it helps you digest carbohydrates. It's called hydrolysis. And the hydrolysis is essentially where the liver uses water to break carbohydrates into teeny tiny bits of sugar. And the sugar that your body uses the most is called glucose, which is very important when it comes to diabetes. But the glucose is the main form of sugar that your body can use. So there's other forms of sugar. You've heard of high fructose corn syrup. Fructose is a type of sugar. How the sugar molecules are put together, it's just shaped different than other things. Sucrose is your table sugar. And so you eat these carbohydrates and these things that are sugar, but your cells and your brain and all the parts of your body need the sugar in the form of glucose to be able to do the job and give you the most energy for your buck. So the liver hydrolyzes, or essentially uses water to break these bigger carbohydrate molecules apart into teeny tiny glucose, and then sends it on its way to all the places that it needs to go. So that's how your liver metabolizes sugar. When it comes to fats, your liver will use a process to break the fatty acids down to, after the bile goes into the intestines, then smushes up the fats and breaks it into tiny pieces so it can be soaked into the body. Then it goes back to the liver, and a different process works on those fatty acids that the bile created to make cholesterol, which cholesterol is used in the walls of your cell. If you remember, a cell has a wall and then all these things happen inside it and then they like stack together. Those walls, to make them fluid and squishy so things can flow through them the best, cholesterol is needed, because cholesterol, if you think about how slippery an oil is, if you use oil in cooking and it makes things really, really slick and really slippery, it's like a lubricant. That's what cholesterol does in your cells. So it makes the walls of the cells really fluid so things can move through them and they can squish and they don't get hurt as bad because they're really moldable. So cholesterol in that respect is good. Too much cholesterol is obviously a bad thing. So the cholesterol is created. Some of that cholesterol goes back into actually creating bile, because you've heard oil and water don't mix. Well, you need an oil to make more oil to then be able to dissolve oil, which is all the fats. Water's not going to work on that. And then if there's any extra fatty acids or pieces of fatty acids floating around in the liver actually runs a process called gluconeogenesis, which is the creation, genesis, of new glucose, which is the gluconeogenesis, which is the process that your liver uses to essentially create glucose out of anything that's not a sugar but contains carbon. Carbon being that element on the periodic table that everything on the planet's based on, carbon-based life, if you've heard that. So if it's got carbon in it, then the liver has the tools to be able to turn biology class flashbacks. Yeah. So the liver has the tools to be able to turn anything that has carbon in it into a form of sugar, into glucose. So extra fats turn into sugar, which is why for people who have type 2 diabetes, not sugary diets are bad, but also fatty diets are bad for that reason. So then the third energy source from your food is the proteins, which is, sugars are the easiest for the liver to manipulate and turn into energy, so it always goes for that first, which is why when you eat a low carb diet, the body then goes after the fat, either from the foods that you eat, or if you're actually eating low fat, then it goes for the extra fat that's deposited on your body to create energy, and that's how you lose weight. So then fat is obviously the next easiest thing. Then protein is the hardest, but it can still get energy from protein if it needs to. So proteins, the building block of proteins are called amino acids. Amino has nitrogen, another nitrogen being one of those elements on the periodic table. And then the acid contains the carbon that we talked about. So the amino part, the part that contains nitrogen, the liver says, I have no use for this. So it turns it into something that's relatively safe, which the end product is urea, which, if you've heard that, sounds like urine, it turns the nitrogen, which can be kind of dangerous, into urea, which is a little bit safer, puts it in the blood, that blood flows to the kidneys filters it out, dumps it in your bladder, and then you pee it out. So that part, it says this isn't useful. But the acid part that has the carbon on it, it uses gluconeogenesis to create sugar from the thing that has the carbon attached to it. So proteins can actually be turned into sugar. That process doesn't happen a whole lot because there are places in your body that actually need amino acids all attached together. So if you're using your muscles or you're building muscles through exercise, then those amino acids are sent fully intact to your muscles to help heal your muscles from exercise. So that's why a high protein diet, or at least a balanced protein diet while you're exercising, or if you're an athlete, is very important because those muscles need those building blocks. They have a lifespan, so as they start to die, or as you injure muscles or work out muscles that lead to micro injuries and then they need to be able to heal to make your muscles stronger, those amino acids are needed. So there is an overview of how your liver helps metabolize the foods you eat. You eat foods that you like, and your liver is able to do all this stuff with it. But the bottom line is, all the cells of your body need glucose to be able to create energy and do their jobs for the other things that they do for you. So glucose isn't inherently bad. It's just when there's too much of it or your body doesn't know what to do with it that it becomes a problem. The fats that you eat aren't inherently bad because you need cholesterol for your cells to be healthy, but having too much of it can become bad. The proteins that you eat are all in all good. One of the in-between steps of the liver metabolizing proteins is ammonia. So that nitrogen piece that turns into urea, an in-between step is ammonia. And there's actually a blood test to be able to test the ammonia-urea balance. And if you have an imbalance of more ammonia than urea, then it probably means that some of your muscles are actually being metabolized. Yes, the bun. If your muscles are being metabolized by your own body, that can be a problem. That can be a sign of starvation. That can be a sign of all kinds of imbalances. And so your muscles, you need your muscles. Your muscles do lots of work for you and allow you to move around and do all the things that you like to do and actually get the food to your mouth that you like to eat so much. So that's something that you don't want to happen. But the protein metabolism is something natural. So as you eat today, you may start to think about, this type of food is a carbohydrate and this is what my body's going to do with it. Or maybe it will help people like Nate make better eating decisions to not eat so much fat because the too much can, as your liver really knows what to do with it, and it can be very efficient in doing it. The downside is just the rest of your body may not appreciate it because the fatty acids, if the parts that your body uses turns into cholesterol and it's used into the places that it needs. If it ends up with too much, even when your body can only handle so much glucose and even the storages of glucose. And so the other side of the fat is that it says, oh, well, I can't do anything with these. So it starts linking them together and sending it out to other parts of the body saying, like, can you hold this for me? And that's how your body gets fat deposits in the places because the liver had too much. And so it just had to pack it up in a package and send it out and be like, hey, left hip, can you hold this for me for a little while till I need it? But if you keep eating fat, then it's going to keep storing it there, and then it's never going to go back and say, hey, I need this now, and then take it back to keep your figure. Your liver is responsible for a lot of those things, and if you use your liver wisely for the foods that you eat, then you can maintain a very healthy lifestyle and a very flattering figure in whatever form that you want it to be in. So thank your liver for all the hard work that it does. So there are 4 more processes that your liver participates in, and so I'll do 1 more tomorrow, and then we'll do 3 next week. And that will you'll know a whole lot about your liver by the time that we're done. I guess that's it. Y'all have a good day. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes so you don't miss an episode. You can find the show notes at pharmacistanswershere.wordpress.com. If you want to join the conversation live, follow me on Periscope at Cyn Hendrix, CynHendrix. You can also share your questions and comments with me on Twitter at Cyn Hendrix or email the podcast at pharmacistanswershere@gmail.com.